Hello, Jordan.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, I got my bro hat on. You got your Ole Miss hat.
Yeah,
Feel like we're bros.
we are bros. I'm doing it. I'm doing the podcast from Leslie's office today.
How does she feel about that?
Oh, she's fine with it. She's not even in her office anymore.
So is she out like doing real work while you're just like at home playing with your computer?
No, she's getting set up for a big party this weekend.
Oh, okay. And this is personal.
Well, we're revealing the
Can I stop you there? Are we comfortable? Are you comfortable talking about this on the pod? Because if you're not, because I know you like to keep all your shit personal. We haven't even brought this up yet. And I have been dying to bring it up
Okay,
like
well then let's
80,
let's
100 times. I didn't want to bring it up because, well, it's your personal shit. And, the podcast is not.
well, I was gonna say let's save it for a later date and then we can
Okay. We'll save it for later date.
okay.
And
But whenever you're ready to bring it up, Harry, go for it.
I will. And Jordan does have a big announcement. He's decided to get a third dog. And we've all advised him against it. But you know what? You can't tell Jordan anything. He's rogue.
I do my own thing.
No, he does he does what he wants when he wants. Right, Jen?
Yeah, Jay, you're in a new room today.
I know. I'm in
It's
Leslie's office.
Jen, if you had joined on time, you would have known these things. We've already been
Oh, that's hilarious because you told us you were going to be late. So I added 3 extra minutes to it.
you were wise to do that.
We were all waiting in a different room too. And then
Different rooms. And Hannah, how are you?
Great.
Okay, so I want to start with you actually.
Okay.
Jen, I know you have a time constraint, so we'll get to you next. But I want to start with Hannah because so Hannah, this was kind of your first work trip, right?
Well, I did go to Bar Convent Brooklyn a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's right.
But this is my first like beer focused event.
So, Hannah works more on the wine and spirit side than the beer side, but she does work on the beer side as well. She's, our youngest editor. So she's kind of closer to the age group that everybody wants, to know about. What was your impression of the Craft Brewers Conference in Denver? It's a broad question, but
yeah,
a lot of white dudes and beards with bad breath and farts.
I mean, I don't know about the bad breath and farts, but there definitely were a lot of white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jordan's gonna appreciate this, but I had a thought like, man, I should have made like a TikTok. Do you know that like TikTok sound where like she looks like every other bitch? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I should have done that with like Jordan in a crowd of like all the attendees of the Craft Brewers Conference.
Right. Yeah. Beards, white dudes. What was your impression of like, I don't know, Jen, help me out. Help me on what I should ask Hannah about the Craft Brewers, because I wasn't there.
Well, but it was also a really different CBC, right? Like, so I guess Hannah, like, what was your impression of CBC versus some of the spirits things you've been to? Like totally different or kind of the same?
Yeah, well, I think this one just takes like a different approach. Like at Bar Convent, for example, it was a lot of like suppliers trying to show off their spirits, and so a lot of like sampling, a lot of stuff like that. Whereas the trade floor at CBC was like all kind of about the industry and production and canning and hops, yeast, things like that. So I thought that was interesting. I really was expecting more beer, honestly.
Yeah, it was.
That's a good point. I mean, it sounds like there are a lot of vendors there, right? I mean, that's kind of what she's saying is like yeast vendors and, trying to sell
Yeast vendors.
Yeast.
I mean, we're all trying to sell yeast, right? Who doesn't have extra yeast laying around? Classic.
Okay, I got one. Hannah, what was your single favorite thing about CBC? She's like, nothing. The trip to the dispensary.
I mean, I don't. That was also fun. That was my first visit to a dispensary, so wild times. But I mean, I don't know if this is directly part of the conference, but I did enjoy just getting out and meeting people and going to some of the accounts around and just checking out the scene in Denver. I thought that was really fun, and also thought like their general session and the bringing in like the band and all that was kind of a fun experience.
It seemed expensive to me. I'm just kidding. I think of everything on monetary terms. Well, that's cool. And the people were nice, and
Yeah, everyone was very nice, very chill. I also had my first experience with Malort, so I will never be okay again, but
what's
it's fine.
Malort?
It's apparently this liqueur, and it's made with like wormwood, and it's a big thing in Chicago.
You mean like absinthe?
Kind of, yeah. And it's just super bitter, and like they were describing it as like fermented like rotten fish. Like
It sounds
kind of tasted like pickle juice, but it's a big thing in Chicago because it's like, oh, if you can survive the winter in Chicago, like you need to take a shot of Malort to see if you're like tough enough, basically.
That's an interesting sub. By the way, bruh. I'd like to thank John Williams from the Louisiana Beer Industry League for sending me this. And he just had his card clipped to it. I have no idea why he sent it to me. I think he might be trolling me. I think he think maybe I'm wearing it on the podcast and that's what he wanted. And it's like an inside joke in Louisiana. I don't know, but I'm wearing it. Thank you, John. I'll see you at MBWA in Vegas. Okay. So yes, wormwood. Stay away from that, Hannah. God, I wish I'd told you this before you went on your first thing. The worst hangover I've ever had, and I have had a lot of hangovers. Look how old I am, if you will. The worst hangover I ever had was at the Miller Coors Norman Adamy party for his retirement. One of the 40 that they had for him. This was in Milwaukee at the Pfister Hotel, and Molson Coors had just bought a Absinthe. This is long form podcasting. We have time for an anecdote, and then we'll get into everything. They bought this Absinthe, and we drank an entire. The owner of the Absinthe, we drank an entire bottle of it at the bar at the Pfister Hotel. And I not only missed my flight the next day, I missed my flight the day after as well. I'd never been that sick in my entire life, because what they don't tell you is that this wormwood that's supposed to, have psychedelic, and it doesn't have shit. All it does is make you feel like shit. And they dissolve it in Everclear, basically. So it's 100 proof, and it has a bunch of shit.
I think the descriptions we got were pretty on par with that. So so we kind of knew what we were getting into, but yeah.
Yeah. This is what I love about long form podcasting. They're topics that we never even knew we would even touch just come into play. All right, Jen, let's get to you because I know you have a time constraint.
Well,
I would like to talk to you. Well, you tell me what to talk to me about, because Craft Brewers Conference and AB meeting are what I would like to get to.
Yeah, well, so I think Hannah brings up a great point, bringing up the Malort. What does it say that one of the highlights at the Craft Brewers Conference had nothing to do with craft beer, right? Like, it's this shit novelty shot. And it was actually because we were hanging out with the Montucky guys, and that's like one of their promos, right? Like, they're kitschy. They're like, oh, our beer, which is kitschy, and a shot. What's the shittiest shot I can think of? Oh, Malort. Oh, how much fun. Instead of drinking the best craft beer, let's go drink rotting whatever fish, or
it's like the old Jägermeister, like in the 90s, it's like Jägermeister. Oh my God, it sucks so bad, but we have to have it.
So yeah. And then the other industry party we went to was the 3-tier guys at like a tequila bar. So this year's Craft Brewers Conference was not the craft
spirits conference.
Exactly. Anything but craft beer conference. But
well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like millennials, what the hell is going on with this? I need to get my hair cut, obviously. It's like a little, but millennials love craft beer. I'm being really generalized here, okay? And then it seems like Gen Z doesn't give a fuck. Like they just want like upscale but still functional. Functional, I think, is what I'm getting at. And craft spirits gets that done better than craft beer because it's like these young people are like, I want to be fancy, but I don't want to have gas.
I on that note, Hannah and Jordan. Well, Jordan's
We're definitely cutting that out, by the way. I don't want to be known as the guy that says that beer causes gas because we know that's not true.
Yeah, definitely not true. But no, I'm curious. I guess Jordan's more of a millennial, but Hannah's I'm pretty sure you're Gen Z, Hannah. So
Well, wait, what are you claiming to be, Jen? You're a millennial.
Yeah, no, I know, but you were just talking about Gen Z. So I'm asking Hannah about Gen Z insights because I'm too old for that now. I'm so old. Every day a body part falls off, but I have, anyway. So moving on to the AB meeting, which followed. So they have this new Bud Light Next, right? And it's like 80 calories and 0 carbs, and it's for the Gen Zs. And I'm like, Gen Z doesn't care about 0 carbs. Like, my dad's been on the Atkins diet for decades. Like, what? That's not a Gen Z thing. What do you think, Hannah?
I think it really depends on who you are, but I would say, like, personally, and like in my friend group, like, we don't really talk about like calorie counting and things like that. I mean, like, my friends who are super into fitness, you know, they think about that. Like, they were kind of excited for like higher ABV White Claw and other stuff like that coming out because they're like, oh yeah, then I don't have to drink like 2 or 3 to get the same effect. I can like save some calories. So I think it really just depends on what kind of drinker and like what kind of lifestyle you have. But for the most part, I think like that kind of like diet culture around drinking isn't as prevalent, but that's just like from my personal experience.
Yeah, so it's more about, kind of like Harry was saying, the functionality than one particular type of stat, right? Like bang for your buck, kind of.
Yeah.
If I can jump in here as the least qualified to talk about this
of
the entire group, it does seem like that like origin story is not as important maybe as just the product itself. Maybe I don't know. Never mind. Y'all talk. You know what? Let me put myself on mute, and Jordan, you and Hannah and Jen mill this out. Mill it.
I was going to ask, how old is the oldest like Gen Z?
I think they're like 25, right? Or 24. I mean, it's like just LDA. There's just a few, I think.
Yeah. Like,
it goes up to 30. Come on. 28.
No, come
28,
on.
30.
I'm 30 and I'm definitely a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm taking my sons. Harrison is 28. Hunt is, I don't know, 26. Wyatt is 21. So you can see which of these 3 does not belong here. Which of these 3 is a mistake? Which of these 3 is extra special? I'll let you make the take. Anyway, which one is a millennial out of those 3 and which is a Gen Z?
I think just Harrison's millennial. How old's Hunt? 27?
26, I think.
Okay, yeah. So he's right on the cusp. But what I was getting at is I think drinking preferences are going to change dramatically like when you hit 25 because you're kind of, still trying to find your career, make some money. And then once you have some money around like 23, 25, then I didn't drink wine until I was 25. Now I drink wine, not all the time, but a good bit. There's certain stuff that you'll pick up as you get older.
It sounds gross.
Heard wine gives you gas.
No, I don't like the idea of you drinking wine, Jordan. I mean, I can't control what you drink, obviously. Or can I?
But the Bud Light Next thing is interesting because I think that was kind of like a labor of love, like just to make a beer with 0 carbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
I mean,
Jen?
It was 10 years in the making. So how could it be a Gen Z play, right? Like those two things don't mix.
Great point. Yeah.
But no, you're right, Jay. Like yeah, I think they were just so excited that they could get to a 0 carb light beer, which granted, yeah, that's awesome, but why like shoehorn it into the Gen Z thing, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, and then what about Michelob Ultra? Leave it to AV to come up with the one product that's going to slay right into their fastest growing product. I mean, come on. And, nothing, I think, brought that home more than I was, editing last night, the podcast with Chelsea Phillips at AV at Beyond Beer. I was just listening to a lot of things that she said, but Chelsea's job within AB, because they're so huge, is the same as Pete Marino's job at Molson Coors. And Chelsea's, 34, and gets paid much less, I'm assuming, and is way down the ladder compared to Pete, but they had the same job.
I wanted to ask something real quick, Harry. If AB comes out with that 0 carb beer, and you can put it under Bud Light, you can put it under Michelob Ultra, you can create a whole new brand, what are you going to do?
Well, right. You're going to put it under Bud Light because that's how they're couching Bud Light now. It's growing because there's 15 brands in Bud Light, and cumulatively they're doing okay. I mean, as much as people shit on Bud Light Seltzer is actually doing okay. It's number 3. I mean, I can't say what they are, but there's a lot of innovations coming. And that's why you're right. Yeah, Jay, that's why they put it under Bud Light, to prop up. It's like Weekend at Bernie's for beer. Let's prop up this dead guy.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Weekend at Bernie's. I mean, so first of all, Jen, Jordan asked me my opinion.
He?
I was asking everybody, but
no, he said Harry.
I don't.
Well, because you're the one saying it. Leave it to AB if they're going to slay the Michelob Ultra.
So I'd like to give my opinion now, if that's okay. I agree with Jen. That's all I have to say.
I was about to make a fart noise all right, enough with the farts today.
No, I mean, you just said it. You took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly right. I mean, we got this thing. We did it. We finally did it. And then they come out of the lab after 20 years and they're like, yeah, nobody cares. We've already done that. And we already have huge brands. And the only solution in answer to your question, Jordan, is to put it under Bud Light, because that guarantees 90% distribution overnight, and it'll do well. It'll with trial, and then who knows, maybe it'll kill it, maybe it'll slay, or maybe it will be the next Miller 64. And I'm always a downer. Like I'm always the guy that's like, it'll be gone in 2 years, and I hate being that guy. I want to be the guy that's like, maybe it's the next Michelob Ultra, but I'm not that guy. And so I can't pretend to be that guy. This brand won't be here. But you know what? I said that about Bud Light Platinum, and it's still around, and it's still a big brand by any mark, right? I don't see anybody drinking it. I know that we've had on this podcast, people have put forth conspiracy theories that there's an underground layer of people like gnomes that live underground that drink all these products that still do well in IRI, like Red's Apple Ale and Bud Light Platinum and Bud Ice, and brands that nobody ever sees anybody drinking in public. But there's an underground caverns, I think, under Nevada and under the airport at Denver, that have drinking colonies where we put all the shitty brands that didn't succeed above ground, and we ship them underground, and they do quite well down there.
Harry, I know where it is. Do you want to know where it is?
Yeah.
It's at the St. Louis airport. Because like 3 years ago, maybe more, I was at the St. Louis airport and I saw Bud Select, which I think they've since brought back for several more markets. But if you remember that, they're like 86 that a while ago. Apparently, it lived on in St. Louis. And I didn't know until I saw it at the airport bar in St. Louis. And I was like, is this just really old? And they were like, oh, no. It's like a decent brand here. So
No, it's Bud Select that's the weird thing. That's why they couldn't discontinue it, because it was such a huge brand in Missouri, as they say, and yeah, they can't get rid of it. It's one of
I
those.
really liked that brand. I was like, oh, well, give me some.
I mean, listen, let me tell you something. Nothing that AB has put out in the last 20 years has been bad. Nothing. No, when I say bad, I mean poor quality. You may not like it. You may not like Bud Light Seltzer Pineapple, but it's not a bad quality product. And same with Molson Coors and Constellation. And, these guys, they're not going to, when I think of the shit I drank, when I was your age, Hannah, when I was your age, a Busch Light tasted way worse than it does now. Way worse. And there was a discernible difference between a Busch Light and a Bud Light. And you knew the difference. You could taste it. It was metallic. It was bitter. Keystone Light made a whole campaign and made themselves out of saying, when I drink it, I don't get bitter beer face, which is like, ugh. And that's how bad they were. Now, if you put a Busch Light, a Keystone Light, a Bud Light, and a Miller Light in front of me, I guarantee you I would not be able to tell the difference. And I'm not saying they're the same liquid. I'm just, I'm saying they're the same liquid. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's just a little historical perspective that I'm laying down for you guys to pick up. I'm not going to be alive forever, Jordan. So, at some point you're going to have to reach back to my knowledge and
dig through the archives.
Exactly. Because this brain not going to last forever. Did you just do this, Jen?
We can freeze it.
That's what you just did, Harry. So I thought it was pretty funny. This brain not going to last forever.
It was subliminal. I'm driving to Defaus Ranch tonight after this to break bread with the Birarati. I will come back from the Mount Sinai with tablets of truth. I'll have 3. And I'll say, these are the 15 commandments for the beer industry. And then I'll drop one. And then I'll say, 10 commandments. We'll cut that in post too. I feel
it's been a week, right?
It has been a week. I don't even want to talk about our internet situation because it's still ongoing, and I just don't even want to talk about it. But thank you guys for just continue to put out good content, even though nobody reads it. we're gonna have that resolved, and just fucking internet. Jordan, you were at the Molson Coors meeting.
I was.
So how was the chatter around the meeting? And specifically, what were people saying about like the Molson, the Yuengling deal in Texas?
It's funny because nobody talked about Yuengling. It wasn't a part of the presentation. It didn't come up at all in conversation. And so it had kind of totally slipped my mind too. But it seems like they're keeping that just completely separate. And
that makes sense, right? Because there might be jealousies of like it's like rolling out in Texas and selling a lot of beer, and then
as we
in Oklahoma
find out too, that there's no guarantee that Molson Coors distributors are going to get it.
Right.
So I don't think they want to even kind of float that and dangle it like there's hope that you can get this brand, and then Yuengling's the one that decides. Sounds like Molson Coors is fighting, and it ended up being all Molson Coors distributors in Texas, but they interviewed with everybody. So I think
I'd
they're
be
trying
really
to,
surprised if they went with anybody but Molson Coors though, and their in expansions beyond Texas.
for sure, but there's no guarantee, I guess. So they're kind of just playing that safe.
I think the no guarantee is they're saying that because they want the Molson Coors to still fight for it. You know,
True.
they want, they need concessions. They need people to commit to marketing dollars. They need people to make promises.
Yeah,
And
keep competition there.
yeah, right.
But yeah, I thought they did a really great job with the meeting after, just not doing one in so long. That new place is really cool, the Caesars Forum. But it seemed like people were still kind of lackadaisical, I guess. Not necessarily from the show. I think people have just been so used to zooming on everything and not really being back out in a lively event sort of setting, that it wasn't the cheers or the just the feeling you typically would get at a meeting. I don't know if that was the same way at
It
AB.
sounds like that they didn't know what to do with their hands.
Yeah.
Like Will Ferrell, like I've been in my house so long, I don't know what to do. I mean, Jen, how does that feel in St. Louis?
I mean, it went off without a hitch. I don't think it wasn't a huge production, right? I mean, it was at the Union Station Hotel in St. Louis. And actually, AB was super strict about not only vaccines, but also you had to take a health questionnaire and show it to the people at the front and get your temperature checked. And there was like reminders everywhere to keep your masks on. And I realized why, because the presentation room wasn't very big, actually. There were like, it was
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Anheuser-Busch had fewer seats than actual people attending? It's just shocking to me.
Oh, stop. No, come on. Burrito's out. Michelle sprung for the 10 tops. Come on. No, I mean, there were probably 200 to 300 people there, but what I'm saying, I mean, it wasn't a huge, like crazy fireworks production. It wasn't, I mean, it was nice and everything went off without a hitch, but it was kind of a small room. And there were like, 5 people to a round top maybe. And
they had round tops. Wow.
Well, there were
it's like a state meeting, like the Missouri State Association meeting, or
Well, I've never been to that, but yeah, I mean, kind of like a big, really big reception room for a wedding. That's kind of what it was.
Wow, I thought more people would be there. Honestly,
well, it was a couple hundred people.
Maybe I'm thinking of Samcom, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this was I think this is like principals and manager and things like that.
Yeah, equity managers.
Yeah. So, and then they, so it was 5 hours of presentation. Like I said in the write-up, I mean, everybody. It's funny how hindsight is 2020, right? Because you give all the leaders a really hard time, or at least I feel like distributors give leaders a hard time when they're in the hot seat, but they were falling over themselves to, say goodbye to Marcel Marcondes because he got 2 standing ovations. And anyway, so that was one of the highlights. And the other highlight,
he's I don't blame him. I mean,
I agree.
He's done a great job, and as great a job as anybody could with those legacy giant brands. And yeah, so he's gone.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what you
out.
Yeah, when we still don't know where he's going. So he's just gonna sit next to.
So I guess he wasn't Brendan Whitworth's guy.
I don't know. So that's the thing. I think Jordan and I were talking about this, or maybe Bill and I were, but like, yeah, on one hand, my first reaction on the fact that he's leaving is, oh, maybe he's not Brendan's guy. But then the other thing is like, well, maybe he did such a good job that he's now going to be seated at the right hand of the Father. So
right.
Maybe.
Well, they do a lot of that.
Yeah. Right. Clearly he was appreciated. And then the other thing was just the sheer number of brands that they have, like the reception, so many new brands in every category. I mean, they didn't say this and they probably wouldn't like me saying this, but it's almost like you don't need another supplier because they have everything. One-stop shopping from your like smoothie beers, right? AB making, And that's like a pilot type
Damn.
thing, but still to your distilled spirits. I mean, there wasn't a ton of distilled spirit, but obviously Cutwater has spirits, but tons of RTDs, and obviously more. I know, Jordan, one of the things I noticed from your Molson Coors write-up is obviously like the focus on ZOA energy, and AB is trying to, make Ghost a thing more. So they were focusing on that too, but just so many brands. And I got the sense that distributors liked it, but were also like, what do I do with all of this? So those are basically my highlights.
Yeah. I mean, and AB has tried energy a few times, I think. ZOA is Molson Coors' first real shot. And I think, it's a pretty good brand to start off with. When The Rock hops on the big screen, everybody sits up and pays attention. Like he's a captivating dude.
Yeah.
And he really does seem in it for the long haul. So I think he can kind of win over distributors, retailers, and him and Pete Marino, I guess, are real good buddies now. calling
Pete is
him DJ.
Pete is head over heels. He is in his perfect zone. Is he, Pete, he loves sports. I shouldn't get into.
Well,
Pete
no, I was
likes,
going to
but-
ask, Harry, you came up with the $1 Billion Man nickname, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what The Rock was calling him.
The Rock is taking notes from Harry, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
The Rock called him the $1 Billion Man at the meeting.
Oh my! So The Rock, it sounds like what you're saying is The Rock reads Beer Business Daily, or more probably, Pete sent him that issue.
That's
It
fine.
said-
with me.
No, Pete would
As long
not.
as he read one issue, that's pretty cool.
That's great though. So Jen, going back to you, like so many brands, what do you do with them all? And that's kind of what Chelsea Phillips and I and Sarah talked about yesterday. She was like, she's over a lot of those brands, and she's, just say no. Like, we want distributors to say no to competing brands, but also to their own brand. They want to know what is going to work in your market. We don't want to sell you all of them because they can't. The one thing AB does have scale in is they can produce these brands and market them and have structure, chain structure, production, execution structure, activation structure. Think of how just graphic designers, how many you would need to come up with every little thing for a brand. Chelsea talked about the stickers on the floor, keeping 6 feet apart for Babe. There's a designer that comes up with the sticker, designs it. I mean, think of, in other words, AB has all those levers to pull. They have the distribution network, and Chelsea talked a lot about not abusing all those resources. In other words, being careful to put brands only in places where they are likely to succeed, not putting them everywhere. And I thought that was listen, that's been a lesson that that people have taught us for 20 years, but is still being learned by the big brewers. Every brewer that gets big doesn't learn that lesson. I'm surprised AB doesn't learn, because they fired everybody when Burrito came in. So there's no institutional knowledge. So they all had to relearn that lesson. Molson Coors knows that lesson more, I would say, because they've held on to the older folks. And that's why they haven't put the spaghetti on the wall.
Well, I don't,
and they can't afford to.
Well, yeah, and their distributors have gigantic suppliers too, between Constellation and Heineken. And some of these AB people, the only seltzer they have is Bud Light Seltzer. They can take on a lot more than the Molson Coors distributors can. And I think they're probably asking for a lot more too.
Truth.
Yeah, they want the RTDs, right? And No, I mean, you guys are right. And they did stress regionality, right? Not everything is going to go everywhere. Absolutely not. Right. But it's just, I guess I'm more talking about the sheer breadth of their offerings is kind of crazy in every segment. They've segmented it all out. But another thing that's interesting too, Harry, talking about Chelsea is before Babe, wasn't she GM of Beyond Beer, right? Or something like that, Jay, right?
She was vice president of Beyond Beer
Yeah.
and Below Premium.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then they just funneled her into Babe. And now it's almost like she's coming back to being VP of Beyond Beer type thing. But there's Fabrizio and Zonzini on top of her, right? So they've added all of these step levels and
I think
processes.
that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Is that AB has double the market share,
Mm.
meaning double the profitability per case or per barrel than Molson Coors has. So they can put more resources. You know, like Chelsea Phillips is over kind of the same thing as Pete Marino, but you know, that's what I mean. Like there's she has responsibilities, but she's in a much bigger company. So there's, you know, 2 layers above her. It's weird. I mean, I'm fascinated by that because AB is competing against themselves in a lot of ways because, you know, she's over wine-based, malt-based RTDs and some spirit-based RTDs, but she's not over Cutwater and she's not over Neutral and she's not over, you know, so they might as well be completely different companies, except that they're distributed in the same network and that they're, you know, they draw from the same capital structure. Am I making any sense?
It's a little bit like that with Pete too, though, because when I was interviewing Pete, I was like, okay, and what about like Proof Point? And they're like, oh no, Proof Point's not under him. And I'm like, okay, what are they? No, Proof Point, such and such is not under him, right? So they kind of have a similar thing. But you're right. I mean,
it's called big company-itis.
Well, sure.
But you kind of, I don't know how to get around it. It's not like I have a big solution. I mean, you have to have teams. Yeah. Listen, we have 6, 8 people working at our company, and I still don't know how to manage, you know, us, you know, jobs and, you know, imagine having 6,000 people, and of course there's going to be silos and that kind of shit. But how do you divide it? Do you divide it by spirit? Do you divide it by base? And they've decided, I guess, to divide it by, I don't even know what.
Yeah. Right. On both sides.
On both. Exactly. I was just about to say that. And by the way, I had no idea, Jen, that you were a Norm Macdonald fan. I
had no idea you were a Norm Macdonald fan.
What's funny about that is that why wouldn't we both know that? Because we both love all the same movies. We love Nacho Libre. We love the dumb, you know, we love, you know, Borat. We love, and then Norm Macdonald, his deadpan delivery. And like you said, he looks at the camera like this is all a joke. I'm not even for real sitting here. Like everything for him was a joke, everything. And I've had ex-wives tell me that just to get rid of me. And I don't think he had a lot of success in love either, but man, what a loss. Jordan, I don't know if you watched Dirty Work, but you need to watch it this weekend.
No, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Are you a Norm Macdonald fan or not? He has deadpan delivery, kind of like you do. He's very dry and quiet.
And that's with Artie Lang too.
Yeah. Artie Lang's still alive and Norm Macdonald's dead. And that just proves how fucked up 2021 is. Artie Lang is still alive. His nose is not alive. His nose is completely cratered into his face because of all the meth and cocaine he's done and heroin.
Dude, Harry, after you said that, I went up and I started looking at some pictures of Artie Lang because I was like, what does he look like these days? I'm not convinced that Artie Lang is still alive. His eyes are a different color, okay? It's not just the nose. It was like,
is this Weekend at Bernie's again?
Yeah. We should call this podcast Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh, we totally should.
Yeah.
He's dead. He has to be. And he stabbed himself in the gut. He's been on heroin. I mean, when you get fired by Howard Stern, then you know that you're out there on the drugs. I mean, Artie Lang's still alive, and fucking Norm Macdonald. I mean, when he talks about, I don't care about Iran or Iraq and Afghanistan, Germany is what I worry about. I don't know if you guys are history buffs. You know, his thing on Germany. He talks about World War I, and then he goes to World War II. He's like, and then 30 years later, Germany again decides to go to war. And again, they choose as their enemy the world.
It's a good point.
If you haven't seen that bit, it was his last appearance on David Letterman. It's the funniest bit I think I've ever. I've watched it 100 times. It's still funny. I'm not worried about. Why do we keep worrying about Iran? Germany is the one that keeps trying to take over the world.
I'll check that out.
It's good shit, man. It's on. If you have to check it out, it's on our company Twitter feed. And the reason is because I didn't have the login to my personal one. So I just put it on the company. And the reason you probably haven't seen it is because we're being shadow banned by everybody. But I don't even want to get into that for no reason of our own. But whew, I will say it's been a hell of a week. But you guys, we pulled through. I need this. I need this little vacay up to Defaus Ranch. I'm taking the dog with me. Biscuit, look lively. You have a big night tonight. And I'll end up with Tyson in his car racing through pastures.
Don't you dare be
chasing
careful.
deer. Biscuit, you excited? You're going to Hondo. You ever been to Hondo? No? Well, you're going. Turd Ferguson.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna miss him.
Hi. God, it's so fucking good. But go back and Hannah, if you have time this weekend, get on the YouTubes and go and look at Norm Macdonald's old weekend updates on Saturday Night Live. He got fired for it because he would not let up on O.J. Simpson. This is back like in the 90s.
Is that
And
true? I didn't know that. I'll have to go check that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So one of the executive producers of SNL was a friend of OJ's at the time, and called up what's his name,
Lorne,
and it's like you got to get rid of this guy. He's killing us. And so what happened is that Lorne went to him and is like, you need to cool down on the OJ jokes. And then the next weekend he went on and it was all OJ jokes.
That's awesome.
100%.
Well, he knew what he was doing.
The best OJ joke he told was, OJ said in his book, if I did it, that I would jump in front of a train or take a bullet for Nicole. And Norm says, wow, isn't that unfortunate that the one guy that would jump in front of a bullet for you also kills you? How unlucky is that? I mean, that's good bullshit. I don't care who you are.
I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check it out this
No,
weekend.
listen, I'm going to spend all weekend after I'm going to come back here, put my foot up. Nobody's asked about my foot. Don't worry. It's fine.
Let's see that gangrene, Harry. Come on.
It's fine. And turns out it was just bruising. Wasn't gangrene like I thought. You know me, I go straight to the worst common denominator. I'm going to come back. I'm going to sit on this chair with this dog. I'm going to look at this big screen. I'm going to put on Norm Macdonald just in memory. And then I'm not going to ever watch him again. I'm going to be done with Norm. But God, what a funny fucking guy. Great delivery. Jordan, do you know Norm Macdonald, or is he before your time?
I mean, I know him through Turd Ferguson and Weekend Update, but like I was saying, I haven't seen Dirty Work, so I'm gonna check that out this weekend.
It's silly. It's a joke of a film. So don't have high expectations on highbrow humor.
I like silly.
It's like I said, I mean, it's like him. The whole movie was a joke. They're all like in on the joke. Like, are we really making a movie? Adam Sandler's in it. Chris Farley's in it.
Yeah.
Artie Lang. Oh man. But no, you know what? Nobody can turn me off Artie Lang. I know he's made a fucked shit piece of turd of his life. But when he's an elf as Santa and he smells of sausage, that is one of the funniest scenes in the world, in all of movie history. Has anybody seen Elf on this podcast?
Yes.
Yeah,
Of
but I don't
course.
remember Artie Lang.
Okay, so I'm just waiting.
I didn't know that was Artie Lang, but
That's Artie Lang as Santa.
that's
He's
what
like, get away from me, Skippy.
He's like, you sit on a throne of lies.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. That's Artie Lang. Hannah, go after this. Go Google Artie Lang and click on images, and you're going to be shocked.
No, I already
Santa
pulled
has
it up
no
on the
nose.
side over here.
You're going to be. I don't want to trigger you, but
You
Santa.
weren't kidding. Like, his nose is gone.
Oh, you are. You've already done it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
while y'all were chatting.
His nose cratered out of so much cocaine, meth. I think cocaine was the least of his worries going up his nose. I think the real damage was done by the meth and the heroin, and the brown heroin, I'm told, is the hardest on the old noggin, the old snooter.
Apparently there was broken glass and whatever he was snorting, and then it just.
I'm sure that's the story he tells. There's
That's
always
not a good story to tell, Harry.
Yeah.
There's-
You want to
no,
tell
but I mean,
that story.
but there's always broken glass in every drug you snort up your nose. That's the whole point. They put fiberglass in there to break it up.
I'm thinking shards though. Like he wasn't.
That's such
wasn't paying
bullshit.
attention.
He's trying. No, I love Artie. Don't get me wrong. I'm an Artie fan, but that's bullshit. The reason his nose collapsed is because he's spent 30 solid years doing coke and heroin and meth, and your nose can only do so much.
Maybe you got a nose job.
It's fixed now. I mean, it looks better. It doesn't look like a deflated ball on his.
It looks
gross.
like 3 fingers, or at least like a ball and then a finger next to it.
He looks like the guy in the Batman with the mask. you know,
Bane?
what's his
Bane?
name? Yeah, Bane. He talks like this. I'm Bane. Poor Artie.
I'm
I
sure
miss
someone's
him.
gonna get offended by all this. I'm not sure.
Nobody's
how.
gonna get offended. We're talking about old white dudes. Nobody gets offended by bashing them. Artie
Oh.
Lang.
I'm sure Good Beer Hunting will have a field day with this podcast.
I know. We played bingo and they had all the racist words. Go ahead and play bingo, fuckhead. Turd burglars. No, what's the name? Turd Ferguson's.
That's a compliment. Don't use that. For
No, you're right. Damn it. Damn it. I hate it when Jen's right, Hannah. It's always the case, too. Always make a big production. What's worse about when Jen's right is I always make a big production right before she's proven right about how she's wrong. And then I look like an asshole because I'm like, oh, fuck, she's right.
I don't know what you're talking about, Harry.
I mean, it happens a lot, you know. I can't think of an example, but it happens a lot actually with a lot of people around me in my life that are important to me.
It happened just recently. But what's funny is,
Okay, go ahead. Explain, Jordan.
oh, so when it happened just recently, it was because we had news to share from Molson Coors and we had news to share from AB, but the Molson Coors news was embargoed till 6 o'clock. You're like, well, just run everything at 6 o'clock. And Jim was like, well, no, let's run the AB news because that's really big just as well at 4:15, and then we'll just run a separate issue at 6 o'clock. And
That was
y'all start going back and forth, and I sit there, and this happens almost every time, and I'm trying to craft a response that, like, you know,
oh my
kind
god.
of blends it all together, and like, but Harry, you should listen to Jen, and then by the time I almost get ready to send it, you're like, Jen's right. So
That
it's
happens
almost like
every time.
okay.
And that happens more often than readers probably know. Like Jen and I, we bicker, I would say. And more lately, she's been right. The older I get, the more I'm wrong. And I recognize that because as I get older, I'm more distanced from the market, I guess.
But
But
Harry, you trained me, so
right. I trained you wrong as a joke. And now I'm regretting it.
great.
No, I'm just kidding. I like the way our dynamic is. I think we've come from early space of fighting each other and just getting mad, and which means we both care, which is cool. But I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we've moved more to of mutual more respect. And what I'm leading to, I'm trying to make myself look good here.
It's all
I'm more
good.
willing to admit I'm wrong faster than I used to be. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
How about that?
that's true. That's
Catch
true.
me outside.
Yes.
How about that?
I think we have a good dynamic. So
I do too. And I know that you are so different yet the same.
yeah, that's true.
And some
Meetings are hard, right? Like meetings are hard. Like you have to
they
have your
are.
other
They're the
stuff
hardest. I
first.
can't do it. I cannot do it anymore.
I don't
don't
blame
think I
you.
can.
It's really intense, right? Like because
Yeah.
you're partying, you're developing relationships, which is a huge part of the industry, but then you're trying to get all of the craft that not crap, but all of the stuff, right? Jay, it's like and all of the details. Hannah's pretty good at it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, she is. Hannah's like,
Hannah-
no, not me.
Hannah, let's hear about your experience covering a big meeting.
You mean like CBC?
Yeah, so
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
writing up, we were writing up the issue and I knew Hannah was taking notes and everything, but like she just pops in the doc and she's like, oh, here, I fixed this for you and this and I'm like, okay. You were like on it, really paying attention and knowing where everything fits. Like that's hard. That comes with a lot of practice.
Well, you're welcome. I found Hannah fair and square. I mean, Millicent did, but through Millicent. It's okay. We can have long gaps that I'll cut them out later.
Wait, yeah. So am I supposed to describe my experience or?
No, that's too
No.
vague. Like Jordan, ask Hannah a question because y'all were there. Why don't you ask her something like specific? I already asked if they smelled bad and they had gas, so I got the good parts out of the way.
Well, what did you think about the seminars, the breakout seminars? Was that new information to you, or was it something that you felt like you kind of already knew?
I think some of the stuff was kind of marketing 101. Like the one that I went to is marketing and selling more beer. And some of it felt a little bit basic, but I think it's always good to get kind of like a refresher. And also it's good to see it from the perspective of beer, because I think I haven't really taken a whole lot of like marketing courses or like had much experience with that. But there is some kind of stuff that kind of runs true. Like I feel like you get it by proxy of like taking business courses or whatever else. So it was cool getting that kind of specific insight. And then just more like context around, how the relationship between supplier to distributor and from distributor to retailer works. Because I don't always interact with people from all three tiers. Like I'm usually interviewing suppliers. And so that was kind of interesting to kind of contextualize a lot of this other stuff that I've been learning on the side. So it was kind of a good way to kind of situate the stuff I've been learning over the past, year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, because I feel like the beer guys are more transparent in their meetings about their relationships with the retailers than the wine and spirits guys are.
I gotta hop off. So
Okay. All right, Jen, you hop off. I won't. I just want to make sure I'm not leaving anything on the ground.
Yeah, Samcom is a sea of people.
Yeah.
But I think this was the first year ever that they allowed media to EAM. So
Yeah, I was thinking that because yeah, that's right. Because we weren't. I remember being not invited to it the first time. Like 8 years ago or something, and being offended, and then being delighted that I didn't have to go, and then to now being re-invited. I think they want to kind of have some control over the narrative because they know that within 24 hours we're going to.
well, and remember what happened last year or a couple years ago with the whole Bud Light seltzer debacle.
What happened then? Remind me.
Someone sent you the preview on Bud Light Seltzer, Bud Light Crisp, which never came to fruition, and we ran it, and that's when somebody called you a dickhead. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
But that was that meeting, that EAM meeting. So I think it behooves them to have us there.
Who called me a dickhead?
You know who?
I'll cut this in post, but I really don't.
Lamantia.
Oh, well, he's a dickhead. It takes one to know one. Lamantia. So it was Tony Lamantia, right? Not Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony. That's right. We hashed that out afterwards. I talked to him on the phone. We're cool now. You don't want to be on the bad side of the Lamantias. You might end up with a horse head in your bed or a dead cat in your backyard. I'm just saying shit. Lamantias are a fine family. All right. Well, now that we've pissed everybody off, Hannah, is there anybody that you'd like to piss off that are one of our large customers?
I'm just trying to make friends. ELE, everybody love everybody.
Well, Hannah, I don't know if you realize this because I don't know if anybody's told you, but our company motto is making enemies as our business and then turning them into friends.
Oh, okay.
So first you have to create enemies.
So I have to start like negging like every potential client.
We're total negs. Like that's what we do. We just throw the neg out and people get all bitter and upset, and then we end up friends. I didn't prescribe to that dating
tactic.
I'm too.
Do you want to define that for our?
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that tactic, it was like popular in the early 2000s, where some book came out where it's the way to get girls is to treat them poorly. Basically, is go up and be like, "Wow, I thought you'd be prettier in person," or whatever, like something like very passive aggressive type behavior. And I don't think it works anymore, if it ever did. But it does work for in sources. So
I'll just open up my next call with like, wow, so your sales were really low. Like, I didn't expect that out of you.
No, what you say is your sales were very robust, but not as robust as we thought they'd be. Expectations. Right, Jordan? Jordan knows. He knows all the sneaky tactics that we employed. I'm just kidding, by the way. We have no sneaky. We don't really know what we're doing. We ask the questions that we find interesting, and especially you, Hannah. Thank you for being on. It's always good to get a fresh perspective. And I know Biscuit appreciates it. As you can see, she's just doing backflips through her own ass. Just an excitement. One could wait 10 years to get a chuckle out of you fuckers.
I did.
God damn
it was a light chuckle.
All right. You're known Robin Quivers. Look that up. Ah, damn.
Tough crowd.
Oh, it always is. Always a tough crowd. I feel like I'm hilarious.
You've got the video up.
I know.
We're
I can
laughing.
see.
We're smiling.
You're smiling. I just don't hear a lot of laughter.
Oh,
That's all right.
okay.
I can't force you to laugh, Hannah. That's not part of your
Well, get
job
funnier.
description. Okay. I mean, you're right. Be funnier. Exactly.
You gotta work on that tight vibe, man.
Be better. Exactly. The tight vibe. Be better, Harry. Be better than the Gap. Right, Jordan?
That's right.
Be better than Ole Miss. Just kidding.
So Jordan's gonna leave the call now.
Be better than Texas, which I've heard is in 2 hours. I'm driving to this ranch. Well, all they will talk about
Football.
for 24 fucking hours is college football. And I know nothing about it. So
Who's
I
winning the
queued
Craft
up
Pub?
I queued up a podcast on Texas football to listen to for the hour drive there so that I will at least know something that's going on with Texas football. All I know is they suck and they're playing Rice. And I have a joke teed up. You ready for it, Jordan?
Yeah, let me run this by me.
You know, if Texas wants to fix itself, it should put it in the rice.
I think you'll get a few laughs.
I've been preparing that joke all day, and I know I'm going to fuck it up in execution. But do you get the joke, Hannah?
Yes, I do get the joke.
Because you put your iPhone in the rice when you.
I
wanna
was
fix
laughing over here. I was just muted.
it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
As long
yeah.
as you were laughing, it doesn't matter if we hear it. It's just long.
No,
okay,
that
good.
one got me. Give me a corny joke any day, and I'll frickin'
That's funny you say that, Hannah, because I have no shortage of dad jokes that I can throw out there, as Jordan knows. Years and years and years of dad jokes, and sometimes granddad jokes. Really, they're almost getting now to the point where they're granddad jokes. Biscuit just is laughing all the time. I mean, look at her. She just laughs and laughs, and then she wakes up and laughs again. It's amazing. This dog just constantly laughing. It's a mile a minute over here. Let me tell you. All right, guys. Listen, thank you for drinking beer. Have a great weekend. I'll be shouting at you motherfuckers next week to get you back on this pod, amongst others. I don't like the name Harry's Pod. It's very narcissistic, and I can change the name of the pod and without too much trouble. And here are a couple of ideas that I want to run by you before I let you go. One is Beer 30, because it's always about a 30-minute pod. And hey, it's Beer 30. You know. The other one is Harry of the Dog. Hair of the Dog, get it? Harry of the Dog, because the dog's always in the podcast. Do you get it? You get these? Okay, not going over well. The other one was I had another one. I can't think of it. It was the best one.
I like Beer 30 out of those two.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards Beer 30.
I think if you don't like Harry's Pod, then changing it to Harry of the Dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of defeats the purpose. I think it should be whatever you name it, you should definitely also make sure that like Beer Business Daily or like brands is included. You don't have to call it like Beer 30 by Beer Business Daily, but I feel like you should tie in the branding, because I can't find Harry's Pod on like Spotify and stuff.
That's a great point, especially like in the graphic. It should be clear that
That we're like associated.
right. All right, that's good advice. You're right, because if you type in Harry's podcast, you're going to get Prince Harry.
Yeah, and because I think it's even harryspod.com, so I had an even harder time finding it on like Spotify.
Yeah, it's because nobody will fucking subscribe or like our videos. We get like we're in the top 10% of listeners of all podcasts, but for some reason our listeners just will not interact. They won't hit the subscribe. They won't smash that
Smash that like.
smash that like button and leave a positive review and a 5-star. Why is that so hard?
Well, you got to get your little spiel at the end. If
Listen.
you like this.
All right. So Hannah, go ahead and say it.
If you liked this episode of harryspod.com, make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. You can find us on Spotify,
yes,
Twitcher, Stitcher,
Stitcher, yeah,
Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah. Wherever podcasts are found. Apple, Google Pods. Well, it doesn't matter. Anywhere.
That was perfect.
You know what? I'm gonna cut that and splice it into every podcast where Hannah's always telling, smash that button. And smash it hard.
Like button.
And then Hannah, tell them to take your friends' phones and smash the like button on theirs too. Right?
For sure.
I mean, why not?
Okay, maybe we'll take it. Let's do like a clean take of that though.
Okay, go ahead.
At some point.
Okay.
Right now?
Yes. It's Friday afternoon. When else are we going to do it?
Okay.
All right, so this is the beauty, remember? Long form podcasting. We cut it in post. All right, so Hannah, what could you tell our listeners to do to get our podcast so that it's more accessible to others?
If you like this episode of Harry's Pod, make sure to subscribe and smash that like button. You can find our podcast wherever you listen, on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're here for you. And then steal your friend's phone and smash that like button and subscribe.
Damn, I couldn't have said it better myself. That is so good. Now, okay, and I swear I'm going to let you go after this. But Hannah, I have to ask, at the CBC, did you shotgun any beers on the floor there?
I didn't. There was no beer. Where was I going to shotgun a beer?
There was no beer? With no can? Well, great. Well, thank you guys. I want you to have a good weekend. I want to thank you for drinking beer. I want to thank you for writing about beer, wine, and spirits. And I want to thank you for traveling like mad banshees for a week straight, especially you, Jordan, who really took one for the team. You traveled for over a week straight, and I do appreciate that. And I have been there, and I will be back there covering for you when you're, when you're comfortable sharing whatever you have to share.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. All right, guys. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.